Good morning and good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sherko Kirmanj. I'm assistant professor and the head of the Department of International Relations at the University of Sharjah. Today, I'll be talking about the politics of education in Iraq and the Kurdistan region. So I hope that you're going to enjoy the presentation. Let's just start. I hope you can see the screen clearly as possible. And my presentation today would be basically about, as I said, about the politics of education in Iraq as a country and Kurdistan region as a federal region within Iraq. What I'm going to do today is basically a review of history and social studies public school textbooks in Iraq and Kurdistan. So I'm not focusing on the private schools. I'm focusing only on the public schools in these two political entities. Then I'll try to highlight and discuss the politics of education in both cases. In the Iraqi case, what I'm trying to do is basically how have Kurds as an ethno-national group been presented and or marginalized. So there's a lot in politics of Iraqi education, but that's not what I'm focusing on. That's the only question that I'm focusing on. However, when it comes to the history textbooks and social study textbooks in Kurdistan region, I'm focusing on how is Kurdish national identity constructed within the textbooks. So these are the two main things that I will be focusing on, not every single other things, because as you know, it's a wide, big scope of area to do. So, and before we start, I'm just going to focus on generally the textbooks and the role of textbooks and the politicization of textbooks and the inherent politics of education. Education system, generally speaking, is not neutral, but inherently political. Scholars or schools try to basically use textbooks as an agents of nation building. For example, Riyad Nasser says that the state controls the ways by which the student's national identity and collective memory is shaped. By the same token, Keith Crawford argues that it is through the history curriculum, especially the history curriculum, and of course, social studies or social subjects. It is through the history curriculum that nations seek to store, transmit, and disseminate narratives which define conceptions of nationhood and national culture. Similarly, Michael Apple argues that textbooks are often used as ideological means that serve the interest of certain classes and social groups. It could be a political party, it could be a political elite, or it could be an interest group. So the contested politics of education is not unique to Iraq or Kurds or the Kurdistan region. While it may be intensified in societies affected by conflict, it is part and parcel of education system in any context. The politics of education is not inherently bad. So when we talk about politicization of education, it could be negative and it could be positive. So it could be used basically for bad purposes, or it could be used for good purposes. It could be used basically to preach peaceful coexistence, tolerance, and acceptance, but at the same time, it could be used for preaching hatred, intolerance, and marginalization of minority groups, or even sometimes the majority groups. It is well established that education systems are among the most important agents of nation building, especially in traditional societies. Why? Because of the way teaching is conducted, that's the spoon feeding. In most countries, including Iraq and Kurdistan region, the state commissions the creation of school textbooks. Means it is the state, the government, not an independent body or independent institutions, as well as shaping national identity and national narratives. Nasser argues that textbooks are inherently ideological and serve the interest of certain classes and social groups. Now, I'm going to talk about Iraqi school textbooks. And as I said, I will be talking mostly focusing on how the Kurds within Iraqi society or within Iraq has been marginalized. Uh, since the creation of Iraq, which was created in 1921 by colonial power, the United Kingdom, the key objective since then, the key objective of Iraqi political elite has been the unification of all Arabs under the single state. Now, what does that mean for the Kurds? It basically means that melting the Kurds uh, in the Arab pot, teaching the history of the glorious Arab past as a basis for an Arab national awakening has been the main focus of the Iraqi textbooks. No matter who was in power in Iraq, Iraqi textbooks normally emphasize the unity of the Arab nation and the Arabness of Iraq. That is where the problem comes for the Kurds, the Arabness of the Iraq. And that means that basically dismissing the ethnic diversity of Iraq and submerging Kurdish identity into Arab identity. The Arab world, not Iraq, in the textbooks is considered as the motherland. So Iraq is seen as part of the Arab land, and the Arab land or the Arab country or the Arab state is seen as the motherland by the Iraqi textbooks. More controversially, the waves of migrants from the when we talk about the history, the waves of migrants from the Arabian Peninsula to Iraq was seen as internal migration. So all the Arab ancestors came from the south part of Iraq, from the what's called Saudi Arabia currently. They are seen as internal migrations. However, the Kurds, if they're coming from the mountains and living in the northern part of Iraq, they have seen or been presented as external migrations. Not only this, the people who have come from south have been presented as authentic liberators. However, that's the ancestors of the Arabs, seen as authentic and liberators. However, the Kurdish ancestors have been presented as invaders, barbarians, and uncivilized. In dismissing the role of the Kurdish leaders in history, the Iraqi textbooks denied the identity of Kurdish leaders, including Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, and it not only did not present it as a Kurdish leader, it presents it as an Arab leader who defends Arab homeland. And I've basically put all these pages of the books, but probably you won't be able to read them because it's in Arabic. There are no mentions of the term Kurd, Turkmen, or Kaldo-Ashurian anywhere in Iraqi history textbooks from 1921 to 2011. Only for a few years, in the early 1960s, a section was introduced to study Kurdish history, but that section was removed in the early 1970s. I personally searched most Iraqi textbooks during that period, searching for the words of Kurds, Kurdish, or Kurdistan, but you will find, I found no trace of them. Kurdish historical sites presented not even an Iraqi site, but an Arabic ones. And that's what I mean by Arabization and marginalization of Kurds within Iraqi textbooks. In addition to Arabization and marginalization of Kurds within Iraqi textbooks, there's another thing that you easily could find it in Iraqi textbooks during Saddam's rule or during the Ba'ath Party rule. During the rule of Saddam Hussein, textbooks were used for glorification of Saddam himself and as a dictator, and the creation of personality cult, as his image was printed on every page of the books, as you can see from the photos that I put them for you. The textbooks were used to ensure loyalty of Iraqi children and youth to Saddam Hussein and his political party. The slogan of "We recruit the youth to assure the future" was mounted in the school corridors. I personally have seen these slogans in every single school that you can think of in Iraq. However, when it comes to the Kurdish school textbooks, as I said, my focus will be on how the textbooks present the Kurds and how it's used to create a unique national identity. But I'm going to present a little bit of history, how the Kurdish textbooks came up. So in 1991, as a result of the First Gulf War, the Kurdish uprising and the establishment of Kurdistan Regional Government in 1992, it was only then that the Kurdish self-authored textbooks emerged. For nearly 14 years, from 1991 to 2005, the Kurds used the same textbooks that were used in other parts of Iraq. Having said that, the textbooks were cleansed and purged, as the Kurdish textbook authors told me, of content considered by the Kurds to be pro-Ba'ath Party, pro-Arabism, or it has chauvinistic connotations. So basically, for 14 years, they used the same textbooks, but they introduced new sections to replace the sections that they basically removed. It was only after 2005, after the United States invasion of Iraq in 2003, then the Ministry of Education, the KRG, the Kurdistan Regional Government's Ministry of Education, produced large numbers of textbooks exclusively authored by Kurdish educators. KRG textbook authors aim to create common memory when it comes to Kurdish, Kurdistani national identity. So creating common memory, because it's seen as the pillar of nation building or as a pillar of national identity. So that was their first aim. And this common memory, whether it is real or imagined, as we know that nationalists normally sometimes create imaginary common memory, or sometimes it's a real that they basically emphasize or highlight. And they do this by linking the present to the past and the induction of the younger generation into this creation. National Kurdish identity is revived and created through the textbooks, instilled through historical narratives, self-image, differentiation, and identification of geographical, racial, and political boundaries between the Kurds, Kurdistan, and the others. And I'm gonna probably explain and elaborate on this point later on. Kurdistan is portrayed as an Asian country and nation. It is claimed that Asian Kurdish groups established the first Kurdish state more than 4,000 years ago. That is just basically to give a deep root to the Kurdish history. And for this purpose, a Kurdish calendar revived or invented also. Kurdistan is depicted as the first homeland of the second generation of mankind. Again, you can see how deepening Kurdish history is emphasized in Kurdish history textbooks. They prove this by simply telling human beings or telling the students that Neanderthal remains were found in a cave called Shanadar in the province of Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan. Similar Asian sites are repeatedly displayed and mentioned in the textbooks. I have mentioned the names, but I don't have to repeat them. The history textbooks also attempts to create a sense of uniqueness and unity through the resurrection of recent common memory. So it's not only focusing on the Asian common memory or the old common memory, but also on reviving or highlighting or the current or modern common memory. Textbooks display, for example, chemical attacks by the Iraqi government on the city of Halabja, and also the Kurdish mass exodus in 1991, and linking this with historical other events. Not only history textbooks, but also geography is also utilized as a tool to provide visibility to Kurdish homeland and demonstrate the boundaries of Kurdistan through cartography. The aim of this showing Kurdistan, as you can see it from the map that I've highlighted, where it shows that the Kurdistan region in orange or in red, this aim at creating a visual sense of the Kurdish homeland through demarcation of Kurdistan from the surrounding countries and nations. The textbooks tries to visualize Kurdish nation or Kurdish homeland, identifying the borders of Kurdistan with such frequency, not only once or twice, such frequency is part of re-emphasizing territorial identity of Kurdistan. Why? Because the territorial identity of Kurdistan has always been as the part and parcel of the Kurdish question in Iraq. In contrast to Kurdistan, the term Iraq has negative connotations mostly because it's normally linked to the aggressive policies of the previous Iraqi regime that led to the destruction of the forestry and or to Kurdistan. Having said that, for most part of the textbooks, you can easily see that the textbooks encouraging the ideals, the ideas of tolerance and harmony, and celebrate diversity of the people of Kurdistan, as you can see from the photos that I highlighted here. Cultural and religious festivals of different religious and minority groups and ethnic groups in the Kurdistan region is celebrated and promoted in the textbooks and portrayed in Kurdistan as a region or as a society is portrayed as a multi-ethnic and multicultural society. Despite this, you can see in many places that the textbooks sometimes conflate or does not know how to distinguish between the Kurdish and Kurdistani identity, Kurdistani being a large identity that includes all the ethnic religious groups, and Kurdish identity as being ethnic that includes only Kurds. In their approach, the textbooks confuse, as I said, and conflate significant concepts such as ethnicity, nationality, and citizenship. Creation of a national identity by defining the other is another means of creating Kurdish identity, means that how others are portrayed and how the Kurds are portrayed. The ancient civilizations of the region, for example, is divided into two civilizations, the Kurdistani civilization and other civilizations. So, for example, the Iraqi, Egyptian, Iranian, Greek, and Roman civilizations are presented as others, and the civilizations which were based in the Kurdistan region or the Kurdistan, the larger is presented as Kurdistani civilizations. After the emergence of Islam, however, Arabs are presented as the others, but Islam is not presented as the others. Despite that, the moves of Arabs into the Kurdistan region or the Kurdish areas with the waves of Muslim conquerors who come to the area is presented as expansionist, and that led to the Arabization of Kurdistan. After the establishment of the Iraqi state, British and the Iraqis are presented as the others. Despite that, the only Iraqi leader who has been not presented as treacherous or despotic is Abdul Karim Qasim, who ruled Iraq from 1958 to 1963. And the reason that the textbooks, the Kurdish textbooks, do not present Abdul Karim Qasim as dictator is because, and it's stated even in the textbooks, is that he acknowledged in the Iraqi textbooks, in the Iraqi constitution, sorry, that Arabs and Kurds are partners in Iraq. So for this reason, Abdul Karim Qasim is seen as a national figure or as a hero. Although various Iraqi leaders, a part of Abdul Karim Qasim, have been portrayed negatively. So we're talking about the leaders and the political parties. However, throughout the textbooks, Arab Iraqis are not stigmatized, are not dehumanized, are not outcasted, or politically labeled. So the negative terms is used against the leaders and the political parties and the dictators, but not against the Iraqi Arab society in general. In addition, textbooks encourage students to adopt dialogue and diplomacy for achieving the Kurdish or Kurds' rights. Statehood and the rights of self-determination for the Kurds is also something that the Kurdish school textbooks emphasize on it. Okay, so since the establishment of the Kurdistan region government in 1992, school textbooks have treated the Kurdistan region as a geopolitical entity equal in status to the neighboring nation states. Textbooks state explicitly that the Kurdish nation, like any other nation in the world, has its own homeland country. It is the right of any nation, the textbooks emphasize, to have its own polity. Our neighboring nations, Arabs, Turks, and Persians, the textbooks say, all have their own entity. The Kurds are no less entitled to the right of self-determination than other nations, the textbooks adds. The core message in this is that it tries to convey to students that all nations have the right to self-determination and statehood. For nation builders in Kurdistan region, as a concluding remark, curriculum or school curriculum or school textbooks are powerful careers for building a collective identity. This is the aim and parcel of the Kurdish educators. In some, Kurdistan regional government history textbooks present a core political message that the Kurds as a national group in the world of nation states have the right to self-determination and statehood, just like any other nations in the world. The main discourse contained in Kurdistan regional government history textbooks is the need to create a nation state either within or outside the Iraqi nation state borders. Thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Many thanks, and bye-bye.